Good morning. Today is Thursday, March 31st, and it is a green day. A reminder that there will be no classes tomorrow due to the Meet the Teacher conferences. Sophomores, juniors, and seniors, please be sure to check your Canvas accounts for asynchronous assignments from your teachers. Vermont freshmen, a reminder that you will need to be at your SBAC testing location by 7:45 a.m. tomorrow morning. Dress code for testing tomorrow is Variety Day attire, but as a reminder, leggings and jeans with holes are not allowed. League of Legends. Does hearing those 3 words remind you of last weekend's gaming episode with your friends? What if you could join an esports club here at St. Johnsbury Academy and play League of Legends with your friends against other schools? If that interests you, please see your SEJ Labs email for an esports survey. Fill it out and be ready to play after the April break. Writer's Block will not meet today due to the Meet the Teachers conferences. However, we will meet next Thursday for writerly companionship, conversation, and of course, cookies. Happy scribing till next week. Percy Jackson has triumphed. Of the original 16 contenders in the March Book Madness, Percy is the last book standing. A big library thank you to all who participated. Thank you for your enthusiasm, your love of reading, and your great ideas for improving March Book Madness for next year. Those people who correctly guessed that Percy Jackson would triumph, come to the library and pick up your silly prize. Check your email if you don't remember. Special congratulations to correct guessers, Sebastian Kaufman, Rose Sullivan, and Cody Bradley. Come by for your slightly larger silly prize. Yes, we said 1 overall winner, but 3 is much more fun. Coaches Carr, Minier, Smith, and McLean, along with all of the softball players, would like to extend a very special message today to Coach Roberts, as his 40s have expired and he turns 50 today. So when you see Mr. Roberts, be sure to wish him a happy birthday. And happy birthday today to Cole Banks. Happy birthday. Have a great day.
Good morning, St. Johnsbury Academy. Mr. Roberts, happy 50th birthday. That's right. Remember, when you see Mr. Roberts, it is his 50th birthday today. So we have the honor of hosting some of our Colwell scholars this morning who had the opportunity to travel to Norwich University a few days ago and participate in the War and Peace Institute. This invitation was actually sent to us last spring from one of the professors at Norwich University, and Mr. Rain made contact with the professor down there. Little did we know where we would be today. I think we're celebrating or thinking about the 5th week of the war. So I'm inviting up today Theodora Montague, Peyton Moeller, Liam Markey, and Hannah McDonald, and they will share with you their experiences and some of their reflections on what they learned.
Hello everyone, I'm Hannah and this is Liam, Theodora, and Peyton. On the 21st of this month, 13 Academy students had the opportunity to attend the annual Peace and War Summit at Norwich University. This year's summit focused on Russia's role as a global superpower and, because of recent events, it also looked at the motivations behind Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Since we know that a lot of you are interested in the current situation in Ukraine, we are grateful to have the chance to share some of what we learned at the conference with you.
The experts we listened to were not in perfect agreement about why Russia has invaded Ukraine. This is one more reminder of how complex and complicated human affairs are. Some experts argued that Russian President Putin wanted to recreate the Russian Empire of old. Others believe that Putin felt that Ukraine was drifting from Russia's control and that Ukraine is viewed as integral to Russia's national identity. On that note, many experts pointed out that Putin underestimated the Ukrainian sense of unity and nationalism. A couple experts emphasized that Putin believed that Russia was stronger than it had been in decades, and that the United States and liberal democracy in general were in decline. Most experts agree that the expansion of NATO to Russia's doorstep is one more motivating factor for Putin. Maybe it's the most significant factor. That is also the case for the European Union. Ukraine had been hoping to join this group of democracies, and almost all the experts believed that this was a concern for Putin.
Thank you, Liam. Now that we've discussed causes of the war, I'm going to give a brief update on what's happening in Ukraine now. Bombings continue in Ukrainian cities, like the capital of Kiev and Mariupol, including horrible incidents like the bombing of a maternity hospital and a theater where many people were hiding. Just yesterday, a Red Cross building was bombed in Mariupol. Over 4 million people have fled Ukraine, and the crisis there has displaced a total of over 10 million people. That's counting both those still inside Ukraine and those who have fled the country, creating a huge refugee crisis. Many Ukrainians have joined the military, and the military has been much more effective against Russia than most people expected. Russia's military effort has also been less coordinated and competent than was expected. Russian President Putin and the Russian military may have been led to believe that this would be an easy victory, but that is not proving to be the case. Within Russia, protests are being shut down, and many people have been arrested for speaking out against this so-called special military operation. Official Russian media is spreading false information about the war, particularly that Ukraine was under the control of Nazis and that ethnic Russians within Ukraine were being persecuted. This has led some Russians to support the war based on this false information. Russia and Ukraine are having talks about peace in Turkey, and Russia recently agreed to cut back on bombings in Kiev, but has failed to follow through on that promise so far. Ukraine has asked NATO to enforce a no-fly zone above Ukraine. NATO is reluctant to impose this because it would inevitably lead to clashes between NATO and Russian pilots. This could lead to a bigger war between NATO and Russia, and could lead to a nuclear confrontation. So for now, NATO refuses to take steps beyond economic sanctions.
While the war is ongoing and its implications for Ukraine, Russia, and the world are as of now unknown, or largely so, there are certain things that we can speculate about or assume about. The first of which we more or less know to be true, is that oil and gas prices will continue to be high for a while, because Russia, as the second highest exporter of crude oil in the world, is going to be cut off, or is being cut off from international markets, and a lack of supply plus high demand equals high prices. And the world can shift its reliance to other nations, such as Venezuela, but prices will still be high until the international market is able to balance out. Another thing, which is far less certain, is how the war itself will play out and how Russia will respond to recent failures. While it initially looked like the aim was to remove Zelensky and instill a far more Russia-friendly government, we know that's not going to happen. And what looks to be happening is that Russia will focus their efforts on the eastern Donbass region of Ukraine, an oil and mineral-rich region, where the Russian government has been encouraging a separatist movement for almost a decade. Maybe Russia will support a separate state. Maybe they'll annex the Donbass region and expand Russian borders even further, or at least attempt to. And maybe Russian forces will dig in and force a stalemate in Ukraine. We don't really know. And it's possible as well, and I find this fairly unsettling, that it's possible that Putin's plan has just been this all along, that this has gone along with what he's intended. If we look back to the first Chechen war in the 1990s, after the Chechens put up a very profound and effective ground defense against Russia, the Russian military's response was to regroup and launch an artillery and air assault, destroying the Chechen capital, Grozny. Russia won that war and was able to effectively stomp out dissent. The hope is that that doesn't happen in Ukraine. But speculation aside, most of us are just spectators of this horrible war. We need to remember how much suffering is being caused, and we should find ways to make a difference no matter how small our efforts may seem. You can donate to charities, you can try to reduce your personal gas consumption, but in any case, we should all try and educate ourselves a lot more. And if you want and are able, next Thursday after school at 3:45 p.m., Mystery Rain will be screening a documentary in Mail Lounge on Russian President Vladimir Putin and his path to war. This documentary will be an hour and will be followed by a short conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Colwell Scholars. It's important for us, I think, to consider the notions of war and peace. They seem far away to us usually, but hopefully in a few minutes we'll consider what they are to us personally here. So before I make a few remarks, I have some announcements. Hopefully we can focus and consume these and think about them. Starting on Monday, we will go back to lunch like we used to know it. I know many of you are very excited about that. A time to share stories and times and joys and concerns with your friends again at lunch. So Monday, lunch will be open as we used to have it. If you feel like you would still like to eat in your classroom, that is available to you. I checked with Mr. Murphy just prior to chapel. We'll be sending out a schedule for lunches tomorrow. It should be fairly similar in terms of by building, but we need to check to make sure the numbers of people in the lunchroom work. So that will come out tomorrow. Also for faculty members who got an update, Dr. Howell will revise that and send a new notice to everyone. So please look for that, pay attention for that. If you have questions about lunches, please don't hesitate to come see and ask us. Again, the lunch schedule will come out tomorrow to the teachers, and you'll find out in your classes on Monday when your lunch time is. So I would like to end chapel today with a little reflection on the idea of war and peace. War, as I see it, is a violent response to confrontation or perceived problems. It's the use of the primitive lizard brain. It's enacting the fight part of the fight or flight response that is inherent in the human mind, the animal part of the brain. And we see it all around us, from the war in Ukraine, about which you've just heard, to the Oscars this past Sunday, about which you might have heard, to our school in the past week, where people were trying to settle things with direct violent action. I would suggest that we don't need these sorts of actions, that we are an evolved species. We don't need to accept violence as morally or socially acceptable. We actually can commit to peaceful resolutions. Peace, in fact, is a state of nonviolence. It's the use of our evolved part of our brain to reason and to reflect and to converse and communicate in a nonviolent way. And most of us, I think, here at the Academy experienced the best example in the United States of nonviolent direct action in our studies of Dr. King and the civil rights movement generally, but more specifically in his letter from a Birmingham City jail, about which you heard both in chapel and I'm sure if you're juniors you've read about it in your English classes, where he explained the importance of nonviolent action as opposed to violent action in confronting immoral laws or immoral behavior. So I think we can use that example here with each other. We can follow Dr. King's example and all those folks who participated in nonviolent direct action. We can make an effort to overcome our instinctual response to conflict and disagreement and use reason, discourse, and compassion. So I would implore us all here as a large community, a community committed to the idea of making sure that we all feel a part of this greater good, that we all feel we belong. Let us use our evolved brains and communicate and reason and be compassionate. Have a good day and a great weekend for those of you who are ninth graders from Vermont. Most of you I'll see in the gym tomorrow. Remember, please arrive at 7:45. Thank you.